Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News, South Florida Conservative News Service. We are under attack down there. I think it'll be up in another day or two, probably because of the service that we use, which seems to be in Israel. But oh well, you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute. You don't care about our problems. It is September 4th, Thursday, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And this had come up in a couple different ways, but most graphically illustrated in the last 2 to 3 days by a guy named Patrick Bet David, who owns a television, well, not television, podcast show called Valuetainment. He's down near Oakland Park, so he's about 15, 20 minutes from here and a light years away from us in terms of money and everything else. But yeah, he is what he is, right? And he's done a show where he gets young assholes on there to talk about socialism and everything else. And I think Patrick's background is like, I think he's a self-made millionaire and all that kind of stuff. I think he's first generation in the country. He's everything that the modern American hates because it shows you what a fucking failure most of you are in a number of different ways, not always about money. It's not always about money. And that's what we're really going to talk about is this champagne socialism that you see. We used to use the term, it was a guy from a band called Simply Red who had like one song and he considered himself a champagne socialist. They also call it a luxury socialist, but I think champagne socialist sounds so much better, doesn't it? It really gets you where it is, like Clooney. Clooney's also one because he would be the ruling hierarchy of every other equal person. We're all equal, but Clooney's a little more equal than the rest of us. So he has this people on the show and asks them a bunch of different questions, and they're all living in poverty and blah, blah, blah. So he offers them jobs, and they immediately kind of refute he's like, I'll give you a job, and then you can move forward from there. And to a man, they degrade either him or they degrade the job, not even knowing what the job is, right? And then he's like, I rescind it. I'm not going to do it. So if it wasn't just a come on, which I don't think it was because other people have done it as a come on and people just stopped the same way. We have a real issue, and people will say to you, well, it's this super capitalism that America is all about. It's all about the money and blah, 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 blah. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's not that at all. And I'll tell you this from personal experience, because why not? And this involves a friend of mine who was in Japan, one of the first of the Americans in the auto industry to come over there to the Japanese and see what they were doing because they were making the expansion into the United States. And he was in one of the big factories and they're looking around and they were brought in on a certain day. So everybody's standing there. Sure, I've told this story before. I'm trying to speed it up. There was an older gentleman and he was up there and he was given an award and everybody bowed to him and this, that, and the other thing. And so he asked the guy, like, what is that? Mr. Whoever Jr. And he's like, no, this guy has worked at this factory since its beginning, which is after World War II sometime. This is, 20 years ago, the story. And he has never missed a day of work. His area is always the best kept area. And he always has a positive mental outlook and he always contributes during our group events. In the older Japanese business style, there was always a morning meeting. You do your stretching. They read the information from the president of the company to you. Sometimes there's a little Q&A. Sometimes there's not. There's your marching orders, and boom, you go off to your job, and everybody starts together. Everybody ends together. And here, this guy basically was maintenance. He swept the floor. He picked up trash. This, that, and the other thing. But he was given this stand-up honor, including the president of the company. Everybody was there in the factory. I guess maybe not the president, well, whoever it was, whoever ran the factory, maybe the president, I don't know, said there was hundreds of people. So they all give him the bow. He gets the award. He goes back to work. They don't retire him. So if he didn't die, God knows he could still be there, right? So this is showing you a style of business that we do not promote anymore. And we had a similar one. Don't get me wrong, we weren't as dedicated as they are, but I'm using them as the pinnacle of that. Where in the old days, you used to be able to say anybody could stop the line for things on aircraft or automobiles. If there was an issue, they could work it through and make it happen. Doesn't happen anymore. Innovation does not come off the floor anymore. People do the least amount, and that's what the Bet David show was showing is today's new worker is not a craftsman by any means. This is the average person, average guy, not a salary man, but the average guy or girl or whatever you want to be, working the average job, blue collar into lower end white collar jobs, is doing just enough to get paid because they want the most amount of time off to go do whatever they want to do. Now, I know this from the trades, talking to various agents and things like that. I said, how did you lose this section of the city? How did you lose entire cities to regular labor? He's like, we couldn't get the guys to work a 40-hour week, let alone a 60-hour week. Whereas we do know older people, I don't even know if my cousin's still doing it because I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I think he was in his early 70s and he was still getting calls to go work big jobs as an operator because the young kids didn't want to run the DA big machine and they couldn't figure out how to go from one stake to the next stake without tearing up the entire property. Okay. So the quality of worker in the United States has to be greatly improved, let alone the mindset of the average worker in the United States. This does not mean we need to keep all the landscapers and everybody else, because if you want to see the jobs they're doing, they are the easiest ones. They just don't bitch about it. Or if they do bitch about it, it's in a language that the owner doesn't understand. So counts as a no, right? So let's just talk about this and the consequence of where this is going, because this is an even more virulent and damaging version of socialism that we are experiencing, especially here in the United States. And it doesn't breed socialism, it breeds something that's even worse, if it can be possible, even worse for people that are going to have to live under it. So I'm going to start our story, as we said, in Japan. Okay, for centuries, Japanese culture has tied identity and honor to the way a person works, not the job, but the way. And I'm going to just jump in with this word because I have these here in front of me. Shokunin Kishitsu. Shokunin Kushitsu. That is called the artisan spirit. It teaches the mastery of a craft is noble. To be a master is noble of anything, whether you're a sushi chef, whether you're a carpenter, whether you know how to get the stains out of a t-shirt. Then there is kodawari, a devotion to detail, where you pour yourself into perfecting the smallest things, even if no one notices. Like I said, there's a series of these, so they all come together. And of course, there's gambaru, the idea of persevering and doing your best. In Japanese workplaces, they even have a phrase, ha ha, atsukure-sama, which literally means you must be tired. But in practice, it is a way of saying we honor your effort. So if somebody says to you, you must be tired, they're actually praising you because you have shown so much effort. So together, these philosophies kept society cohesive over there. The lights stay on because everyone from the janitor to the engineer takes pride in doing their part. Work isn't just survival. It's not getting paid. It has meaning. Work in itself has meaning. Mastery of a task has meaning. Now compare that to what we're seeing in the West, especially in the United States today with these younger people. And some people even, I guess, at my age group. I don't know. All right, although I'm past all that. A growing number of people no longer see work as meaningful. They don't care about the prestige of a job and even the quality of work they deliver. And what matters to them? The dollars. It's always about the dollars, right? Salary, benefits, and time off, nothing else. Which is what makes when people say, oh, you got to keep these illegals. I have had thousands of dollars worth of damage done in my yard by my landscapers who don't give a fuck. and they're not from here. So they basically have taken their attitude from the American ones who taught them not to give a fuck. Or the idea is we consider them so beneath us that we just say, oh, those effing foreigners, they don't know how to do things. Wrong. That's why you fire everybody, right? So salary, benefits, and time off, nothing else. And the kicker is, if you read the reports, for many of these people, the reason they are so choosy is survival is already covered. You know, the hierarchy of needs. They live off either government programs or they live off of their relatives or their boyfriend or girlfriend or something. That means their view of work is purely about extraction. Give me the money. A paycheck is just fuel for indulgence in their personal lives. It's not a duty. It's not a calling. It's not a trade. It's not even a way to grow. Psychologists call this amotivation, and you're going to see a lot of it. Look at these people. I don't want you to have to look at the internet too hard, but look at some of these people and you'll see it. It's an entitlement orientation, especially when you hear them start spouting that communist bullshit about why I'm not getting paid what I should and this and that and the other thing. It's an entitlement orientation where people expect reward without contribution. We used to see it here. We caught a couple of the teachers that were doing videos saying, I get paid okay, but my real job is to pervert the minds of the students into socialism. So that also is the same kind of thing. You're not doing the job to do the job. You took the job to assault the minds of the children, right? Same kind of thing. Outside of work, this is where it came in when people were looking at it. Most of these people aren't even pursuing any hobbies or disciplines that bring meaning to their life. Their life is boiled down to consuming, not creating. It's not like you, and I know a number of people from back when I traveled. I said, how did you get here, man? Well, I worked as the one guy used to work as an arborist, which means a tree cutter in their country. And he would live, him and another guy would live someplace and go follow this tree cutting business for X amount of months. Then they would go to Bali or Thailand or Malaysia, wherever it was, and kick it and have a great time and all this kind of stuff, right? And then they would just go back to work and do it again. But, you know, they were able to do it because they were good at what they did. Once again, see these differences? They were very good at what they did. The companies would tolerate it because there were seasons for work. They worked as long as they could. They made their money, and then they went and explored parts of the world. The one guy had been to 126 countries. He just would go to a place and immerse himself for a month at a time or whatever and go. Now that's maybe I'm wrong. That's interesting to me. He didn't have to buy a big house. He could have. He didn't have to buy a souped up car. He could have. He decided that this was his passion, and that's what he did without bankrupting his future. So it is an entitlement orientation where people expect reward without contribution. And outside of work, like I said, they're not even doing anything. They're sitting around or they're working, they're doing stupid stuff like I'm doing right now. Although I do this for therapy, right? So they're basically straight up consumers. All they do, their whole existence is to generate money to spend it so that they can continue to be mid for the rest of their existence. So that when they die, nobody will ever miss them because we'll replace them with another one who's just as bad as they are. So what's going to happen if an entire society starts thinking this way? Okay, first of all, innovation stagnates. If there's no pride in mastery, no reward for excellence, and no pressure to survive, then why would anybody bother inventing the next breakthrough? Why improve automation if comfort is already guaranteed, right? You're going to end up with a junta class, a ruling elite that manages resources and decides who gets it. That isn't theoretical. This is how it happens. Every system that provides or promises a universal entitlement eventually creates what we used to call an apparatchik class, a group of unelected technocrats or oligarchs who control the distribution of this wealth. Thirdly, you're going to run straight into what is called the drudgery dilemma. For those of you who don't know it or do know it, someone still has to do the dirty work. Someone's got to get the toilet to flush. Someone's got to go do this. Someone's got to cut that grass and damage my yard, right? Sanitation, caregiving, logistics, construction. Those jobs don't magically appear. There is no AI that is going to do them. You can argue with me as you wish. The machines will not build the machines that build the machines that build the machines, because you have to have somebody really smart in each stage of that to program them. And if the people stop being smart, the machines get as stupid as the people. It's almost like Idiocracy or whatever that show was. I think that's what it was called, right? So in a luxury socialist system, which is what all these college kids really want, that's what they are saying. They don't know that there are differences in sociology because it's not on a Rage Against the Machine album anywhere, right? Or whoever they listen to today, that's also an asshole. They fall to outcasts. These are going to be these shitty jobs. Outcasts, migrants, which is why they want to keep them around, right? Criminals, because we love criminals, but we don't want them around us. And we don't want them to ever get better because that's part of a financial arrangement that benefits us too. Or those who don't conform to ideology, which is what you hear from the left wing, which is what they always say they're going to do to the MAGA people. Somebody's going to a work camp. It's not going to be your liberal gay neighbor. It's going to be Madge up the street who has an American flag in her front yard. So they are going to develop what would be considered a service caste. This is going to become a caste system. This is what the final contradiction of this whole thing is. Luxury socialism inevitably drifts into caste oligarchy. At the top is going to be the junta, all right? It's going to be Clooney. It's going to be whoever Clooney's banker is. It's going to be his wife. It's going to be any number of these people in Europe, the guys that always dress like they're in a Demolition Man with the faux Asian outfits. The creepy, I'm sure he's gay as hell, but in a bad gay way. Those guys, all them will become the heads of this uninformed sicko group, for lack of a better term, because 9 times out of 10, they are not informed. They have developed wealth usually in ways that have nothing to do with nation building or the preservation of a populace. The one guy, his family or something, they made money on the duty free. They owned the duty free services at a number of airports, but it was worth billions of dollars. How does that translate to I should be allowed to run a third of the planet? Bill Gates, same way. The other creepy bastard in Austria, right? Or everyone's favorite George Soros, who just wants it all to burn, you know? So that's going to be your junta. In the middle is going to be all these kids from Harvard, pacified with comfort and consumption, get free housing, free coffee, free this, free that, the chance to sit there and worry about being victimized, or more importantly, spread their victimized behaviors into other parts of the planet. And at the bottom are going to be the invisible laborers who keep the lights on for the whole place. We know who they're going to be because they say they're already the ones doing it, but they're not. They're the ones holding the ladder for the guy who fixes the light bulbs. You're not going to have that guy replacing light bulbs with this system. You're not going to have a guy who can tell them how the electric works with this system. So let's go back again to this Japanese thing for contrast. There, the lights stay on because everyone from top to bottom respects labor. Innovation continues because pride is embedded in the culture of work. Anybody who has a job is given a certain amount of reverence. Same with the homeowners, the housewives. They have a job to do. They are also given a certain amount of reverence. That guy I told you about who swept the floor, he gets a little bit more because he really epitomized what should be done. So if I'm building Hondas and my Hondas aren't coming out right, and I'm Mr. Honda, I go to Honda Jr. and say, why don't you go over and look at what Juan is doing over on that fucking floor and why that's so clean, and adopt his mindset and get back in here and get my Hondas together. Basically, that's what you're going to get, is learning through example. So in luxury socialism, the lights stay on somehow through automation, through hidden workers, or by the dictates of ruling elite. No one really asks who's carrying the burden because you're so busy with your own problems or inner things. But once again, you're not writing the next novel. You aren't building a model ship. You aren't painting a picture. Okay? You're not building a house. You're doing none of these things. You're taking photographs of yourself in various stages of dress or undress, hoping that somebody somewhere gives enough of a shit to click a button on you. And the danger is very clear because of this. Any nation that embraces this entitlement mindset risks stagnation. Look at the big cities that have already started moving in that direction. Stagnation, dependency, and permanent stratification. Once a society has accepted that most people don't need to contribute, then there's almost no way back. There is almost no way back from that. It was contained when it was small groups, and that was done in a fashion which nobody, I think, will agree with these days. The Johnson administration was one of the biggest monsters that ever occurred in the United States. So here's the central question that we can leave you with. And if you'd like to comment, feel free to contact us at any of the sites. What is work for? If work is dignity or meaning and contribution, societies thrive. If work is oppression, something to avoid, then luxury socialism takes hold, and with it, a slide into a caste system from which there may be no return. This isn't just about economics. It's about whether future generations will inherit a culture of purpose or one of passive construction. So that's what we're going to leave it for now. If you have any questions or whatever, like I said, always leave them in the comments section. We are on Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, and then of course our own site, www.southfloridaconservative.com. Also on Substack, I think it's the same thing. So there's always a way to find us. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to explore, feel free to contact the site and we'll see what we can do. All right. So that's about all for now. Have a good day and bye.